Okay.
How much do you remember from your childhood? I don't remember much, and I have oftentimes wondered why. The question doesn't seem to come up much in everyday conversation with people, although when I have asked, I've been sometimes amazed at how much other people do remember and in very vivid detail. I believe it's because I have merely existed, gotten along to the best of my ability and circumstances. I don't particularly recall any traumatic experiences. There was no abuse or, you know, the word escapes me. But I feel like I have had just very few peaks and valleys because I have lived my entire 58 plus years in the comfort zone. I grew up in a little community called Ballard. It's mostly Scandinavian people, and actually my parents did as well. They grew up across the street from each other. My father was 18 months older than my mother, and so they knew each other from the time mom was 3. They got married, I think, at 20 and 21 or something like that. Anyway, mother was the 8th of 9 kids, and dad was the 6th of 7. I'm the oldest daughter, second child of 4, alternating boy-girl between 1957 and 1962. I was recently asked about my first memory from childhood, and it was laying on the floor in the living room, about 3 years old, drawing tiny little connecting circles. And my mother told me that I spent considerable time doing that. I think based on that, I just got accustomed to being alone and kind of doing things in my own head. Also, I was quote unquote painfully shy, which my mother often told people when we met them. So I guess that made it okay to just stay stuck there. Trying to get to my notes here. So I had some pivotal moments in school that I recall that were I won't label them. Okay, first grade, Miss Cadwell, nothing less than perfect was acceptable or good enough. She screamed at several of us 6-year-olds for coloring outside the lines. Then in second grade, well, I was always very tall, and so that got attention that I wasn't necessarily looking for. That made me different and not so welcome with the little girl groups at school. Add to that the eye patch and cat eye glasses that I had to wear in second grade because my lazy eye had not been caught earlier in life. So I was somewhat of a social outcast. The rest of my school is nothing really jumps out or sticks out. I don't have a lot of memories about it. Until 10th grade, Mr. Logan, my history teacher, I'm about 5'11". He was like 5 foot, and he had a Texas accent, and he spoke to us students. He called us folks. And I think it was the first time that I ever felt like the teacher was relating to us on a more of a human basis than authoritarian to child. Anyway, prior to that, I had no interest at all in history. I thought it was stupid. I thought the only thing really that drove me was memorizing facts and dates to pass the dumb tests. So Mr. Logan had a way of connecting the current events back to the historical roots, and so that made it fascinating for me. Unfortunately, that was one semester in high school, and then I moved on, and it was back to just facts and data and memorization and getting good grades for the sake of it. Junior and senior year, I was very excited about learning to type and run office machines, and that was going to be my employment ticket because my entire school experience was not a positive one, and I don't even recall any conversation with my parents about going to college. Certainly I would have had to pay for it, and I didn't choose to pursue that. Also during my school years, I got pretty mixed messages between my two parents. I quietly did my best. I was, like I said, painfully shy. I didn't want to bring attention upon myself. I got mostly A's and a few B's. I was a tap dancer from the age 5 to 12 or so, and I was very good, but I quit when the other little girls quit. The message that I heard off and on throughout childhood was children are to be seen and not heard. And so, and my dad's kind of perspective seemed to always be that my best can always be better, and I never felt good enough to measure up to his high standards. Throughout childhood, my mother was home, and she would pump me up and say, "Oh, you can do anything and be anything," and along with that, she napped a lot. So she wasn't really there. She went back to work when I was 13. She was home up until that time. And from then on, through high school, I was the meal preparer, and it was fancy, processed, hamburger helper, and other such delightful processed food crap. The values I came up with: working hard, do your best, but always be better than your best, be loyal, and honesty is the best policy. Go to work for a big company, mind your P's and Q's. Anyway, you'll get good benefits, and you'll have the amazing rewards of a decent paycheck, maybe recognition for perfect attendance and years of service, and someday a grandfather clock for retirement or some cool thing like that. So my parents never talked about dreams or goals or any of that sort of stuff. So it was just very dutiful, do this, and you'll get that kind of a thing. So I was ready to get out of my parents' house. At age 18, I got my first job. I hired on with the telephone company, making a whopping $149 a week. Got health care, dental coverage. I've really arrived. and I'm on my way now. I saved up and bought my first car 6 or 8 months later, a car that I couldn't even drive because it was a stick shift. That was fun, but kind of exciting. And then several years of working and saving, and we were able to purchase our first home. Oh, I didn't say I got married at 19 and went from living in my parents' house to a honeymoon to being married. So our home purchase, actually back in 1982, interest rates were incredibly high. They had been in the 17% range. We actually purchased a brand new home, but the builder was unable to sell it at those rates, and so we got in on a lease option. We didn't really have any savings built up to buy a home. So we paid $801 for 4 months. $1 was rent, and $800 went to the down payment. And that's how we made the American dream come true. Back in 1982, the interest rates at that time, I think, were around 15%. So after high school, I'm kind of overlapping here, sorry. October of 77, I got the phone company job. February, I got my car. Father's Day of 78, I got engaged and married in November of 78. Then there was the lease option period, the new home, and now we're living the dream, working and paying the bills from October 82 on. Home and family. So married in 78, first child, Joshua, in June of 84. The very day he was 2 weeks old, my mother took an overdose of medication and was way out of it. So I had to leave my 2-week-old son at home to go help my dad. In December of 86, our second son, Nicholas Christopher, was born. Over the period from 84 to 89, my mother took a total of 8 overdoses. She was in and out of mental hospitals, and I was the primary support both for my dad, and as much as I could be for her. I was very angry with her. So in February of 89, Dad left Mom after her 8th overdose, and my siblings really weren't in contact with Mom much at all, so that whole burden was mine to bear as well. Anyway, moving on to better stuff. In 89, we moved about, 6 blocks. Bought a new house, a new bigger house in a nicer neighborhood. Then in December, our daughter Amanda Noel was born. November of 90, my parents' divorce was final, and my mother never ever got over it. Of course, Father went on and got remarried and made a new life for himself. June of 89, we moved to our dream home, which was about 12 blocks away, with acreage and an in-ground swimming pool. And then in June of 99, I quote unquote retired from the phone company after 21 years plus of service so that I could be home with our teenage kids for their teenage years. Then in June of 02, oldest son Josh graduated from high school. He moved out a year later into an apartment nearby with his girlfriend Krista. Then in 2005, son Nicholas, April of 05, we sold our dream home for 100% plus profit to a land developer that made a neighborhood out of our 2.5 acres. And then in June of 05, son Nicholas graduated from high school with plans to go to community college. December 07, Josh and Krista got married. June of 08, daughter Amanda graduated high school with scholarship offer to a D2 school for volleyball, which she rejected. Not just that time, but again a year later, which was very devastating to her dad and I. I had spent her whole high school, later junior high and high school period touring around the country to college viewing tournaments to get her seen to get that college scholarship. And then she thumbed her nose at us and said, I'm not doing it. Anyway, so then she ended up doing road construction in Wyoming and met her husband, who's 12 years older, and moved to Salt Lake City, and now they are in Phoenix. And anyway, we have 9 grandchildren, 6 granddaughters, 3 grandsons, born between August 08 and December of 16. And I would love to include their names. I guess I won't do that right now, and I'll get input on that. My personal and professional journey. Again, in October 77, I got my senior typist position, preparing correspondence for phone company customers. Then in 79, I transferred to an administrative assistant position, actually replacing my mother. And this was again at Pacific Northwest Bell, big company. But she was moving to New Jersey with my dad for a rotational assignment he had. In that clerical position, I supported groups of managers, including some district and division levels, which were the highest level on a clerical support role. So then in June of 88, I got promoted to management as executive secretary, supporting a single vice president, which was a huge success for me, and I was so excited and proud. And my father worked for the phone company for 35 years, and he worked in the same building, and I went to invite him to come meet my new boss, and he did not want to come, which I took as another, I didn't deserve it to have that position. He actually said those particular words to my older brother, who on his first full-time job, making, I believe it was like $11 an hour back in 76, that he didn't deserve that, that he wasn't worth that. So anyway, that was a side note. August of 90, I was promoted again to managing an outside crew of paid telephone coin collectors. And over the ensuing 9 years, I added running the coin collection counting center, where we banked over $100,000 a day from coins from 4 states. And I added some payphone installation and repair technicians as well. At one time, I had 24 direct reports. In May of 1996, while I was still working for the phone company, I became a Mary Kay independent beauty consultant, mostly because I had a good friend who was in the final days of a challenge to promote herself to director. And so I had a couple of short spurts in the early 2000s where I thought I was really going to go gung-ho, and then it just wasn't really my thing. So then in June of 99, the company, or our department anyway, was downsizing, and they had a separation package available. There were 3 managers in our group, and they were going to go to 2. And so I raised my hand to volunteer to go home and be with my kids for their teen years, and that's when I left the phone company. A year later, in 2000, I just had this thought that there must be something more. And I, through that gal that connected me to Mary Kay, I found Jesus. And that filled my life really well at that time. Let's see, 2000 and beyond, searching for my entrepreneurial thing. I'm seeing a pattern here. August of 11, I signed up for an e-commerce eBay training course, set up a LLC, SLS Connections, which is currently still existing, but not really breathing. December of 14, Real Estate Academy, learned and watched others succeed, and for whatever reason, never pulled the trigger on a deal, never got any traction with that. August of 16, another real estate training, focused more on wholesaling. And again, did not get any contracts to execute on. October of, look at this, and anyway, October of 17, e-commerce, Amazon training. I got a new company created called Incredibly Connected LLC. And I was able to get both the company name as well as the URL, which something deep inside of me just was like an aha, light bulb moment, whatever you want to call it. Like I could just see a flicker of something huge in the future that I want to build into. Then fast forward here now to March of 18, when I first met Forbes Riley at a real estate training event. And just the way she came into the room, her passion, her energy, her light was just immediately so, I don't know what the word is I want. Really filled my soul, I guess. Anyway, because I have optic nerve damage, I try to sit in the front when I go to classes and events so that I can capture whatever is on the slides or the boards. And it's mixed as to how effective that is. Sometimes even sitting in front doesn't do it for me, but I was there in the front row, and she had me stand up, and we, I don't remember the specific exercise right now, but anyway, I was one of a group of 4 that was up there with her, and before I sat down, she told me that she wanted to give me a scholarship to her course, and which blew me away. And so I went to her. No, wait. So then when I returned home, there was a product trade show after this several-day training event. After returning home, I was for some reason compelled to record a video of myself in my underwear in my kitchen, confessing that I realized the choices I've made have not served my body well. And this is actually the very first time I have come out from hiding and accepted responsibility and committed to change. I just wasn't sure how this time. Battling my demons, weight and self-defeating messages. So my mother was always obese, 250 pounds or more for most of my life. After the birth of my 3rd child, the weight just began to accumulate, and from 1990 to today, I have done the yo-yo dieter thing for nearly 30 years. Many of you can relate. You lose 20 here, 40 there, then find them again, and usually they have new friends. I tried so many programs, each with temporary success, back to the days of Dexatrim and Slim Fast and Atkins, LA weight loss, hypnosis, other diet pills, keto, and of course, after each little fallback from the success, I kind of just decided, well, maybe I'm just supposed to be destined to be heavy, like my mom. I have now decided in 2018 that it's time to stop my suffering for good and inspire others to join me and do the same. So for those that can relate, I surely hope to connect with you and we can do this thing together. As some of you may know, ketogenic eating is very difficult for people to maintain. My husband has done it very successfully for 2 years. He has lost over 110 pounds. He has kind of found himself at a plateau at this point, with maybe 30 pounds to go. But I have recently found a new breakthrough product, that helps you get into ketosis quickly and helps you stay there for optimal weight loss, energy, and mental clarity. And while the product is not advertised as a weight loss supplement, the whole process of ketosis makes it so much easier to actually burn fat. So I invite you to follow and or join my journey to the new, fit, energetic, incredibly connected Stacey Saintz and your best self as well. I will be logging my journey at, I don't know what the Facebook page is yet, to be filled in later. My marriage and relationship. So I met my husband when I was about 11 years old. He played Little League Baseball with my brother. Over the next 7 years, we kind of had a crush thing going on. He was shy as well and only asked me out after he graduated high school in 1976. in the early years, being married and dating, it was new, fun, exciting, and he always had me laughing. Had such a sense of humor. The budget was tight though, so we did not have much in terms of travel or exploration, really. So 6 years later and beyond, in the child-raising years, we shared the responsibilities, had a teamwork approach with, household and parenting responsibilities, kids playing sports at different times and tag teaming between games and practices and so on. Long story short, the marriage was on autopilot, not really any focused time. I have not felt any deep connection for many years, if ever. He has always held his emotions in. He grew up in one of those households that, men don't cry and macho this and that. And so I pretty much feel alone and insignificant in his life. Though he tells me all the time that he loves me, the words and actions just don't really align for me because I crave that deeper connection. Complicate that with his new greatest love of alcohol, which has been spiraling downward for a number of years. It seems like once he got control of his weight, he totally lost control of the alcohol consumption. So I find myself at a crossroads. I'm unwilling to continue to settle for an emotionless marriage, and am uncertain as to his ability or interest in changing. My attempting to talk with him has only led to more empty promises with regards to the alcohol. So the bright spots in my life lately, Forbes Riley and Forbes Factor, oh my gosh. So in June of 2018, I went to Pitch Mastery and Forbes Factor. It was scheduled to be 5 days of, I was expecting transformational, really deep stuff, and I was not disappointed. And actually, even though I knew there were an additional 3 days, at the time I signed up, was feeling like, wow, how can I do more than 5? Anyway, back to that in a minute. But so it was an absolutely transformative experience. Through the exercises and the support from Forbes and her team and all the incredible people there, I am enough. I do deserve more. And I have a story to tell that will resonate with a segment of the population. The negative baggage that's held me back and made me live a small, insignificant life is behind me. It doesn't serve me, and it's time to step into and claim my life. I'll be 59 in August this year, born in 1959, something about 50 numbers. I dig. Anyway, so one of my absolute favorite quotes, and such a freeing and liberating quote from Forbes: "Your family loves you the way you are. I love you too much to leave you that way." And I absolutely felt that from her, and am so thankful for the work that she has done with me so far. And I'm looking forward to continued growth and liberation. I was a bit nervous going into Forbes Factor because I really have never allowed myself to get pushed outside the bounds of the comfort zone, but I was so ready to begin a new empowered life that I did play full out, and it has been truly liberating. Also, unlike any other seminar or class, and I've been through several, as I mentioned, she gave us several opportunities to go out and immediately produce income with things that she has available or is involved with. And that is so unique from my experience. So my new bold life is just beginning, and I can't wait to see where it takes me. If you're ready to step into your life and begin creating all that you can be, reach out to me at that Facebook page that I have yet to name. I am incredibly connected with Forbes Riley and would be happy to share that connection with you and all the possibilities that lie in the future. Life lessons that I learned from Forbes. How you do something is how you do everything. And that has been so true. And so now I'm changing my game because, you know, insanity, you can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results. Today is day one of the rest of my life, and I am making new and better choices to create a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life for myself. One of my favorite quotes, leap and the net will appear. Because I have grown up in such an analytical sort of mental state, I need to wrap my head around that we don't need all the answers before we can take our bold actions. And life is most exciting with the most growth and joy outside the comfort zone. What have I Forbesed lately? Wow. I'm struggling here, Chuck. Made up and put out a bunch of flyers on cars at the mall to attract in new customers. That's something that I never ever would have done before. So I did that. And I'm looking forward to getting some responses back. All done.